Well, I'd like to welcome everyone to the special meeting, Wednesday, January 22nd. Everything else is placed on hold. Minutes from the last meeting, no engineer report, no chairman's report. We'll go right into the public hearing. I'll just say it, but if there's anyone that wants to speak in favor, anyone that wants to speak against, please come to the podium. It is a public meeting. And before us, we have Attorney Mr. Richard Magnan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Richard Magnan, 194 Central Street, Saugus, representing the applicant TV Holdings. With me this evening is one of the principals, Michael, and Michael Duchette, excuse me. As the board knows, this was continued from your last meeting to allow for the opportunity for your special counsel, Attorney Jesse Schumer, to converse with our attorney from Davis Malm, Attorney Sean McCormick, who's not here this evening. And the purpose was to discuss the 8 points that Attorney Schumer brought up regarding the definitive subdivision plan approval application that is before you. I'm informed that despite repeated efforts to have Attorney McCormick reach out to Attorney Schumer, that did not happen on those 8 points until 4 o'clock today, at which time Attorney Schumer sent an email to Attorney McCormick, who forwarded it to me, saying, they're really not authorized to talk to you, I don't think, unless the town tells me to, so I really haven't got back to you after all those repeated requests. So that may be the case why we have never heard from Attorney Schumer, other than the list that you received of the 9 points last time. In addition, on that email explaining why he hadn't been in contact with Attorney McCormick, he also raised 16 other points that he felt had to be discussed regarding the definitive subdivision application. And again, we got this at 4 o'clock today, which is similar to what you did, the board did, at its last meeting when it got its list at 4 o'clock that afternoon. So obviously there's no opportunity to respond or analyze it, digest it, be able to discuss it. But in that email, which I'll read from, Attorney Schumer did say, that being said, if your client desires to keep the hearing open after tonight's meeting for the purpose of making plan changes, additional information, submissions, etc., you would need to submit a written grant of extension and waiver of all deadlines for the board's time to act within respect to this application. It's obviously to avoid the constructive approval, which would happen if the time within which the board was to act expired, which I think is the end of January. To that end, we prepared the usual extension agreement from the applicant saying the public hearing has been continued from January 22nd. We agreed to a continuance. We just put out 15 days, which is your next meeting, and we extended the deadline within which you have to act beyond that to February 6th, excuse me, the meeting February 6th. The time within which to act is February 13th. And it's signed by Mr. Duchette, and I submitted here to you tonight on the recommendation and the normal course of how we do these to the board. So basically, continuance to the next meeting is the request. I apologize for any inconvenience, but again, we get it.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Long.
a question to Mr. Magnan.
Mr. Long.
4 o'clock, how did you, did the attorney send you an email
sent an email to Attorney McCormick, who forwarded it to me
Today,
today. I'll show you the email. 3:57.
damn,
I know, so we're working overtime.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, 3:47, Attorney McCormick got it, sent it to me. And there's not much you can do getting it at that hour. Even to call and try to continue with the board and try to not make it inconvenient. It was too late. I apologize. I don't know why I'm apologizing, but I do apologize. So we're asking for a continuance to your next meeting. And we extended the deadline, and we're waiving any rights to claim constructive approval by non-action within the statutory time period. And that, I'll state, that's in that extension agreement, but I'll state it publicly on the record here too, so it's well known.
Thank you, Attorney. I've come prepared to go forward this evening. This has been out there, this has been a long walk. A lot of information is asked for, hasn't been supplied. I don't go directly to the point sometimes. I try to skip around it so that people pick up what I'm trying to lay down. That didn't work. But when I took the time, and of course we got this just before the meeting last week.
Right.
So you can't look at this stuff and you can't do your due diligence and your homework. I personally see a lot of issues that stand before us, not only with what we have here, but what exists, which is going to throw more paperwork on top of everything that's already been there. But I'm going to leave any questionings at this time up to any board members, should they have any. Bill?
did you feel?
I don't have any questions.
I came tonight prepared to close the meeting, and frankly, I'm not in favor of the plan as I have it. I've been going over it again. I really do think we need to start from scratch on this whole thing. We got a proposal for something that's being proposed but not going to be built.
I've been saying that since day one, Mr. Long. I've been saying that since day
I
one.
mean, I don't see the,
What was proposed was already built, it existed, there was a rotary there.
I would rather have an informal discussion, straighten the whole damn thing out.
Yep.
And proceed from there. I think that's the fair way to do it. I don't want to keep spending my time getting stuff like this at this time of the day.
Don't disagree.
I'm not supposed to be here tonight. I mean, this is, we came here based on the time frame and everything else. I just think that it's time to end this one, and this material that can be used here into something else, into another, to developing the plan. I think we all want something that's to do with that assisted living. I think most of us would say that that's a good thing from Saugus, for Saugus rather.
That's the way the board was leaning last week.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, but to continue dealing with this, no, it's just one thing on top of another on top of another. And, you got something from Schumer, the attorney there, and who obviously sent something to the other attorney. And at the time, I don't think Schumer was necessarily in favor, Attorney Schumer was not necessarily in favor of us continuing this. And,
Well, he said in his email, if you wish to continue, you can ask the board.
if
That's
you
what
wish
we're
to
doing.
continue.
Right. And we're asking for a continuance to your next meeting.
Mr. Magny,
Again, this is a zoning freeze definitive subdivision plan.
This is
If
a
you
train
vote,
wreck.
if you vote to deny it, fine. I mean, there won't be any assisted living. The buyer's gonna walk away.
believe me, there'll be assisted living. Who are we kidding? It's a thing to have. You're not gonna put hotels here, and the lot's not gonna sit empty. I've been around a long time, and so have you.
So you're guaranteeing that there'll be an assisted living facility there?
With
You're guaranteeing that?
Using your name, I will certainly be able to guarantee that. But I'm just saying, and the ownership question, that's another issue to me anyway, as, this came in under that plan development on one, and suddenly now we're gonna have a change in ownership on a piece of the property in the middle of the property. Is that permittable? I mean,
So basically what you're saying is what I've been saying all along, Bob. We have a master plan that hasn't been completed. We're gonna eliminate the master plan, sell a piece of the property off, and then what do we do about finishing up the parking problems that I brought up? There's so much that falls behind it, it's a cloud. So I just.
I appreciate your sentiments, and I'm just saying,
We were
we
supposed
want
to have
a
a-
short continuance. Now, if you don't want to do a short continuance and you deny the plan,
We were
Then-
supposed to have a parking plan for all this. What happens now that the building's sold off? There's so many questions that this stuff needs to be worked out and brought to us cleanly than what we've got here. This is basically here. And it's just,
well,
it's none of it.
if it's the board's
No, I'm-
inclination to
we'll just bring
vote
this up
against
to
an
us.
assisted living proposal,
That's up to the board.
it's up to the board.
It's up to the board.
it's not an assisted living proposal that you're speaking of. What you're speaking of is a definitive subdivision.
To freeze the zoning that allows the
We have a code
PNS.
order that allows the assisted living.
Yeah. Nobody's denying.
First, you have to freeze the zoning, or the assisted living people
We
aren't
can't
going to
change
go
the zoning,
forward.
it's in the court order.
No. The statute says a preliminary subdivision followed by a definitive subdivision filed within X amount of time prior to the zoning amendment freezes the zoning. The assisted living people are relying on that prior zoning to be able to plan something that will be cost effective to them. Now, if that prior zoning isn't applying, it's,
I would really rather, Mr. Chairman, I'd really rather have these people come in and explain to us why they think
We've asked.
it's necessary to change the plan. What did they see that we don't see that makes it necessary to change the plan?
Just to freeze the zoning. I mean, I take it as a court order, then you can't supersede a court order. The court order says that you can't, the density state goes to 20, you can't have any type of living other than assisted living within the building, and they can build an assisted living. But as I said last week, what was presented to us in the very beginning was a 3-page showing a rotary that was never going to be built. How does that conform to a subdivision plan? It was off to a bad start, and it's been going downhill ever since.
again,
I thought this property was being leased, that he would still, Mr. Duchette.
again, if the board doesn't want to vote
I
this
just-
approval, they
that's-
want to deny it,
Will,
well, that's it. I mean,
I would be inclined to grant the extension. I don't think it was their fault that Attorney Schumer got back to them. I'm not saying I'm in favor of the project at all. I'm not saying that, I'm just,
Can I make a suggestion? If the board votes to continue, and Mr. Long would like an informal discussion with the potential new buyers, we have 3 weeks, we could arrange that meeting, if that would make the board feel more comfortable. I mean, it's only a suggestion, I mean, if that's what he's going now. Because without the zoning, this deal is gone, which is, either way, we have to know what we're doing, because either way, the time limit's got to
in
run.
layman terms, can you explain to the people that are here tonight the reason for a subdivision freeze on
Just,
something that you already basically have?
just because the zoning
state
changes.
your name and address, just.
Michael Touchette, 7 Ramsdale Way, Linfield. Just because of the zoning changes that took effect since I've owned the property, there's been 3, well, there's actually been 4. One when I bought it, one when we changed it, then there were 2 more to the current zoning we have today. So the current zoning we have today, it makes it harder for dimensional buildings to fit. They would have to be more spread out and use up more open space. So to stay consistent on what we built now, we're asking for a freeze on the zoning, so we can come back to this board in 3 weeks or, after our next meeting, Mr. Chairman, and explain to the board that this is the building that's gonna work inside that zoning. Because if we go with today's zoning, the new zoning that's in effect. It has nothing to do with the amount of units, you're right, because that was decided by a judge. It's the dimensional factors of the building, the setbacks, the height requirement, and all those factors. That's the problem with, that's the only issue with freezing the zoning. So something that we started 2.5 years ago with this company, they can continue with.
So, explain to us how the setbacks differ from...
And the height?
You're on a private road.
Yeah, but the zoning says that for every story, I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, but you have to keep so many feet, you can't go within so many feet to 3 stories. So it end up like the hilltop, those wooden type buildings and everything that wouldn't fit into the complex.
So, and did I not bring this to your attention? Have you been before the Board of Selectmen to get your height before you even know what you're freezing?
We have to start here. We have to start here. So if we get it continues to the next meeting, and if hopefully the town attorney will show up and we can clarify all this stuff. We didn't get this information till 4 o'clock today again. We tried to reach this gentleman for the last 5 days since the last meeting, and there's been no response.
Mr.
Chair,
Long,
there's problems with the plan.
I got it, and there's 8 items
With the
that,
plan.
this plan that's submitted doesn't conform to anything.
The plan as submitted is not going to be built. It's a zoning freeze plan.
How can the hell, excuse my language, can you ask us to approve a subdivision that is not going to be built? And by the way, when we approve a subdivision, sir, I brought it right here for your information on sureties, bonds, etc. We're not supposed to do a darn thing as far as signing anything until that is all squared away to our benefit.
We understand that.
Well, no, because
But that hasn't even been offered
it
to
hasn't
us.
been offered, nothing.
Because the plan's not approved, there's not a dollar value put on the items by the city engineer yet. So normally,
You made a statement last week about what's gonna cost Wingate to erect this building.
Right.
So you have a ballpark of what it is.
no, but he's talking about the subdivision
No, I
plan building the
know what he's
road.
talking about. You just
There's
said
no,
you
no,
don't
there's
even know
no
what-
surety for Wingate to build their building, it's on private property. He's talking about the surety amount that the road gets built, so the town covers. If a subdivision gets approved and a road doesn't get built, right, then the town normally takes surety to make sure that that public way gets built.
Understood.
Has nothing to do with the houses or anything around
So
it.
then I'll go back one step further, Michael. With all the research that I've done, that is not a private way. The town has been plowing that
Then that's-
road for 28 years.
That's good for me. What does that have to do with this? That's
But I'm
great.
just saying, it's not a private road,
They haven't plowed it in the last, since 2016, so,
because someone made a claim and made it a private way.
okay, we researched it, it says a private way, but that
So I
has-
went to the state DOT.
I know,
It
but that
was
has
used-
nothing to do with
It was
this.
used against the Chapter 9, the money, and it's,
Then I'm gonna inform the town tomorrow that they should be plowing and maintaining that road, because that's good
But
for us, if it's a
okay, so
public way.
then I'll
Because
ask
then
you
that
this
gives me
question.
frontage on both sides of the street.
then I'll ask you this question. Have what you've built under your master plan been approved in total?
What do you, I'm sorry, I don't
Has
understand.
that been approved by the town in total?
Has that road been accepted by the town?
I said your subdivision, your master plan that you have submitted to the town,
We haven't completed it yet.
okay? So until it's completed,
You can't complete it because we're changing the building. Either way, we're changing the building from the master plan. So,
so you're selling off how many acres?
I think it's 3 point something acres. I'm
3
not-
point something. That 3 point something was used against what you built. To get the amount of.
Yes, but that's how the zoning reads. If you have 10 acres, you're allowed 20 units per acre,
Yeah.
and once you meet your residential component, you can fit anything else you
So how
want in
many
there.
units do you have up there?
250,
250?
yes, on 11 acres.
So basically, if the change goes through, which was allowed, you have,
No, the judge ruled on that. The 200 units that the assisted living's building doesn't fall under the residential
I
component.
didn't say that.
Right.
What I'm saying is it falls under what you built.
Doesn't matter.
Because you just sold off 3.5
When
acres.
you take 10
You don't have 10 acres anymore.
Yes, we do.
So-
It's a condominium master plan. That's how the zoning reads. Even the new zoning reads the same way. If you have 10 acres and you're allowed 15 units per acre, you're allowed 150 residential units, and then you can build anything else you want, as long as it meets the compliance. That's how the zoning reads. You can build your 150 units over here and use the rest of the land for hospital, whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
Not under a master plan.
Yes, it does. That's how the zoning reads, even under the new zoning. Every zoning,
It's done by acreage per density.
right.
So you filed at 10 acres. You're selling off 3.5. So let's say you got 7.
I sold off all the other buildings. They're in 7 different names. They're not all in the same name. One's
buildings
under
are-
TB Holdings, one's under KT Holdings, one's under Mike Touchette. That's how it works. They're all in different names. Every piece of land up there.
But basically, it's within the same condominium.
Right, just like when they,
Right,
right.
so you don't sell out the condominium until
No,
everything
the
is
whole
done.
land stays as a condominium. So the land is gonna stay as a condominium. It's like if you own a condominium in a building. The land under the building is owned by the condominium, but you own the unit upstairs.
But
It's
you
the
said you're
same.
selling that.
What?
You said, in your purchase and sales says you're selling that.
I am, but it's the same as buying a condominium building. The land is owned by the main body, and then every condominium upstairs is sold separately. That's how the plan is done. That's how the
But
deal
you're not
goes.
selling it, you're renting it.
No, we're selling it as a condominium. Just like if you bought a condominium in a condo building.
Mm-hmm.
You buy the condominium, but you don't own the land on the bottom. You own from the
You
paint
own the
in.
condominium.
Right, you own from the paint in.
You understood that.
Same thing there. They
We
own the
haven't-
building.
We haven't hit that point yet. So,
Right, so,
Yeah.
look, there's no sense of being argumentative here. If the board's
no,
made
I'm
up its mind and don't want to give us a 1-week extension to have your special counsel here to address something with our
I got no
counsel,
guarantee special counsel will be here next week.
well,
Thank you.
that's not my problem.
No, I know.
I know, but we're listening to a letter, Mr. O'Brien, from him. You know, we're basing all our decisions on a letter from him, so it's not fair if he's not here. So if we're not gonna base our decision on what he sent us, that's one thing. But if we're basing our decision on what he sent out, so,
And it's what I've taken into consideration, Mr. Duchette. And I'm seeing all this, and as Mr. Mangum just said, plus 8 more. We don't even know what the other 8 is.
me neither.
I've got this before me, and based on what I'm seeing,
But,
I'm not feeling good about it.
okay, then let's move on. I mean,
I have to put
if the
it,
board has that feeling, we have to move on, and then it's fine with me.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm ready.
if there's anyone else to be heard, let's listen to him. If not, I'm prepared to move to close the hearing.
there's no one here other than the applicant.
I move to close the hearing.
All in favor?
All right.
What does that mean?
We close the public hearing.
So would that be against the?
No, we'll take that vote next.
I see. Aye.
To entertain a motion?
I move to deny approval of the definitive subdivision. It's not so much the reason to deny would not be the purpose for what they want to use for. It's the plan itself that's on paper. That's the problem. If you want reasons for denial, I'll give them to you. The attorney probably already knows about them, since he got other information at 4 o'clock. Number 1, plans and reports as conditions such as contour, utilities, tree, open space, retaining wall, environmental assessment, and excavation impact plans, as well as the required soil surveys and percolation tests are not available. That's again the main plan, the subdivision here. The proposed driveway A fails to meet dimensional standard, utility requirements, and alignment criteria. Number 3, the subdivision would exacerbate existing nonconformities in the Essex Landing site under the Business Highway Sustainable Development Zoning, known as BHSD. The proposed layout would make the site more non-conforming with respect to density, parking, and setbacks. Number 4, Collins Avenue already has exceeds the maximum allowable dead-end street length, and the proposed drive A would further violate this limit without creating an adequate turnaround or connections. Drive A conflicts with existing driveways and utilities on the Essex Landing site, including overlapping a parking lot and the demolition of a retaining wall. Number 6, the definitive subdivision plan does not address issues raised in the denial of the preliminary subdivision plan with the need to correct zoning violations, align Division A with adjacent properties, and specify required waivers. There's no specified required waivers that were presented. 7, most importantly, the applicant has stated that they do not intend to construct the proposed road or improvements undermining compliance with the subdivision and occupancy regulations. And number 8, the applicant has failed to provide draft documents ensuring compliance with the required financial guarantees and conveyances of easements for public acceptance of roads. That's my motion and the reasons for it.
We'll put this to a vote. Board members? All those in favor?
Aye.
This is for a denial.
I'm gonna say no.
I'm gonna say yes.
Too bad for the town, I'll tell you.
Sorry, Mike.
Major lawsuit coming, we'll see, it's terrible.
I already had one.
What? I know, but that's
But then they've done that.
sad.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to close the meeting.
I got a motion before us to close the meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0.